I've been in business nearly 10 years, and I can honestly say in that time, I don't think there's been a worse time to be a small business. There are just so many different barriers that seem to be against small business owners right now, whether it be the bigger, wider picture of the geopolitical world and the uncertainty, cost of living, taxes, taxation, just simple tax reporting for small businesses has changed massively. And I don't know if a lot of people quite realize what's coming for the bigger, wider society. It's just the beginning. It's just getting worse. So I've been in business 10 years, and I can honestly say I don't think it's certainly not going to get any better. It's just going to get more difficult, especially in the world of precious metals. We'll definitely talk about how it is to be a business within the precious metals industry, but I've been around businesses and running businesses and behind the scenes in businesses for close to 20 years. My job prior to being a content creator and making my own bits of poured silver, which you can see me stamping here in the background, I worked with small businesses. I saw the challenges that they had on a daily basis. Staffing, costs, branding, all of these things that people used to sort of just take for granted and just be there, now are so difficult. So join me for today's precious metal ramble and business ramble, because it's really important. Now, being self-employed is one of the most rewarding things that I can recommend to anybody, but it is a leap of faith. When I quit my job close to, it was 2014, so close to 15, 16 years ago now, it was a big step to do. And I've talked about that in a previous video, the leap of faith that I took. But once you get something that's yours, it's very, very rewarding. But would I do that again now? I mean, I have this blissful hindsight of 10 years of a successful business behind me, but I would be quite daunted about that, even more so because it's a very crowded space now. The gig economy, the sort of side hustle economy has grown massively, and carving out your own special area within that niche, within that world, can be very difficult. But there are powerful tools to help you do that. Social media, YouTube. But again, YouTube is a very different animal to how it used to be 10, 15 years ago. And breaking out on YouTube now is way more difficult. There are a whole host of different challenges that come along with being a content creator, not just from a logistical point of creating content, but how do you get your content to be noticed even? There are just so many different things that I find difficult. There are a lot of tools, by the way, which I use an awful lot of. I'll talk a little bit more about those in this video, but there are links in the description to some of the great tools that I use as a content creator. But one of the things that really concerns me is around small businesses and the way that we treat them here in the United Kingdom. And I think it's going this way in a lot of different countries around the world, different worlds as well, probably. And that is just the way that small businesses are often treated as this sort of afterthought. Small businesses really are one of the most important things in any economy. They drive economies. There are more people employed by small businesses, and there are more people who grow businesses from a self-employed venture that might just be themselves doing a gig into bigger and better things that then go on to employ people. You look at all the big businesses out there at the moment, and there seems to be this drive to go towards them. But quite frankly, I've found that to be absolutely horrible. There's a very good phrase that I've been using lately called enshittification, and I think that some of the big players out there, Amazon, eBay, whatnot, there are plenty of other platforms, Vinted and the like, that have just catered to this enshittification of commerce, of the world, of business. Now, I mean, it's the same for us in the BYB household. Mrs. Backyard Bullion will buy a kettle or a pair of weighing scales, and we'll buy them on Amazon because we know that if they turn out to be pretty crap, we can just send them back because that's Amazon's policy. And actually, the amount of times that we've bought stuff off Amazon and they've just been really, really bad. There's been plenty of different people who've done content on this, big content creators, about why everything's so bad, it seems, on Amazon. You have to really delve down into these things to find them. But it's just the enshittification of everything. So small businesses are often the ones that give you that better quality, that better service. But that's now being somewhat challenged, I think, because we as small businesses are being asked to do way more than we ever were before. And part of that comes down to taxation, auditing, I say auditing and not like the silly thing where you walk out with a camera and you point it at the police. I mean auditing where HMRC will want to see your bookkeeping. If you're a small business right now, it's going to be a matter of when, not if, that your books are going to be looked at by the tax authorities. When the Labour government came into power, they enhanced the amount of money that HMRC had to do these kind of investigations. So if you're naively thinking it won't ever affect you, I've got big news for you, it will. It affected me, and it will affect other people down the line. So make sure your books are in order. Trust me, you don't want to be falling foul of HMRC. But unfortunately, this is kind of the way the world is. We're in this world where people think that everyone who's self-employed, everyone who's a small business, everyone who's got a gig, side hustle, whatever you want to call it, is cheating the system somehow. They're not paying their right dues. They're not doing the right things in terms of declaring their bookkeeping properly. You know, there's a whole host of things that I've seen behind the scenes from businesses. I've worked with small businesses, I've worked with slightly bigger businesses, medium. I've even worked with large global companies. Not that I was sort of the head honcho of doing and running behind the scenes, but I've worked with small divisions within big companies. And the way that things are done are very different from small businesses. You're very robust as a small business. And often, and I can use my own example, or my own business as an example, you know, I do everything myself because I've taught myself to do it. Do my bookkeeping myself. I do have an accountant that I can call upon to check certain things, and rather than get them to just do all the bookkeeping for me, because I've always thought about this as, well, I kind of know how to do it anyway, but I'm just going to be giving the accountant all the same details that I would be doing the work myself. So if there's something I'm not sure on, I get them to check it over and have a look. That's just how it is. But there is this really difficult, it seems, no love for small businesses. And I don't often like to get political on my channel. It's not really what the channel's about, but it does seem that the small business economy in the UK right now is kind of just ignored. There are a few barriers that I want to talk about that are relating to silver businesses right now. So for me, as a small business within the world of silver, one thing that you've really got to learn about for any business is your gross profit margin. That's the amount of money that you're going to make before you take off any of your sort of overhead expenses for running a business. So if you've got bits of silver like me and you're selling it, what's the price you sell it for? What's the cost of the silver? The cost of manufacturing. So if you're going to be selling it like these, I'm going to be sending them off to the Edinburgh Assay Office for hallmarking. So that's what I do. I write my contents of the box and then for hallmarking. So, you know, things like that. That's your gross profit. And then you've got all of your other expenses, your overheads, you know, the equipment, the hammers, the anvils, the furnaces, all of that. Internet costs, mileage, all of these things go in to make your business up. And doing that yourself, teaching yourself that is really, really good. But now within a silver business, silver being so expensive, there's a thing called the VAT registration threshold. And I see a lot of small businesses in my time, I have seen a lot of small businesses, I should say, fall foul of this because the VAT registration threshold is a rolling threshold. Now look, I'm not a professional tax accountant, I'm not a professional VAT specialist, I'm just a guy who's been running a business for 10 years and knows how he runs his own business. And there are a lot of people who are falling foul of this. In fact, I've had a number of people in this community who sell silver as a side hustle realize, oh God, oh no, I'm well over that threshold, what the hell do I do? And then they have to hand over a whole host of their money to HMRC. But that threshold is £90,000 turnover per year. And that hasn't changed very much. When I started, it was 75,000, and then very quickly it went to 85,000, I think within about a year and a half of me starting my business. By then I was nowhere near even that turnover threshold. And that's turnover, by the way, not profit. And now we're still at 90,000 and I've been here 10 years. You know, so from an inflation point of view, it's this thing called fiscal drag. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that economies right now are really putting on their citizens, this fiscal drag element. So from a silver business perspective, things are good if you already had the silver. But from my perspective, that gross margin, we come back to that. You know, back when I started, silver price was around 10, 11, 12, 15 pounds an ounce. It fluctuated between them. And I would sell my products for around 25 pounds an ounce. So it was a premium product. Percentage-wise, on the gross margin potential, you know, if I sold £100 worth of silver, that would be 4 ounces. It would cost me, 15 times 4, 60 quid. So I'd be making like 40% profit margin, which is quite nice. Now, if I'm selling my bits of poured silver, I'm making an awful lot less. It's closer to 10%. And on a premium product, that's really difficult because that leads into fluctuations in markets, which of course we're seeing so many of at the moment. Not just fluctuations in terms of the silver price, but fluctuations in other things like cost of living, because that now profit margin on the bottom, the overheads that comes into your net profit, eats away at everything. So from my perspective, there is a real challenge right now to be a small business, to be a small sustainable business that is managing underneath the VAT threshold. Because the problem here with this VAT threshold, and it comes back to no love for small businesses, is that once you hit that VAT registration threshold, there are so many different requirements for admin, from the tax returns, from the VAT returns, from bookkeeping, from, here's an example. So for myself, I have a small rental property with my wife. It's, our very first little starter home. And it's great. We have a tiny little bit of rental income coming in. It's nowhere near the requirements to be on this Making Tax Digital thing, but because I'm self-employed and have my business here with my turnover over £50,000 a year, I have to do a tax return every quarter for my rental, for my business. If I go VAT registered, I would have to do that 4 times a year as well for my business. So I'd have to do 13 tax returns a year. The amount of admin that is required to do is crazy. And that takes away from the entrepreneurial element of any business, and any business owner will tell you worth their salt. If they're passionate about a business, if they love being in business, that's the thing that they want to do every day. They don't want to sit there doing the tax returns. So I have been VAT registered as Backyard Bullion in the past. We hit that back in 2019. And there's a very good video that I did with Mrs. Backyard Bullion talking about it. And we were quite excited about it at the time because we were like, yeah, we're going to absorb some of the costs. We're not going to put the full 20% on top of our products because, we can claim some of the money back, and that's all great. But it got very quickly obvious to me that I was spending more time doing tax returns and more time doing admin and more time doing record keeping and bookkeeping than I was doing the things that I was passionate about. So we took the decision to cut some of the bits of the business that we were doing and the growth that I'd planned to do. And that's a shame in many ways, but actually in many ways it was the best thing that I ever decided to do, because now I have a fully sustainable small business that is good and has grown. And because it's now grown to the point where I have got income and revenue streams coming from things like sponsors, things from YouTube, of course, from other avenues that we've started to grow, it means that I'm not reliant on the now dwindling gross and net profit margins of the silver pouring business that I run. So I think there are more challenges than ever for any small business in the UK, and it's kind of only going to get worse. And I haven't even touched on things like, this is more sort of governmental policy that's making it difficult, but we'll spend the last few minutes of the video here just talking about the challenges from a banking perspective. Being in business as a bullion business right now is bloody awful. The amount of times that I send payment details to customers and they tell me they've paid, but they haven't actually paid because their bank has put it on hold, and they have to go through all of the rigmarole of going through it. It puts people off. But then the alternative for me is to offer debit or credit card payments. But that opens me up as a small business to chargeback scams, which happen all the time. I remember there was a very good, Atomic Silver, a really good silver pourer within the community, and he had a horrible one where someone ordered like £1,500 worth of stuff and they got a chargeback. Now, fortunately, he got it resolved, but he was still out of pocket to the sum of about £50, £60. I remember we sent him a silver panda just as it wasn't even from like the community or anything. It was just me to him, just to say, hey dude, look, I've been in business. I know what that's like. It's not pleasant. It's not fun. Hopefully this makes life a little bit better for you, because there is no support if you're in small business mode. And it sucks. It really, really does suck. Now, does that mean you should play caution to the wind and not start up a hobby or start up a small side hustle or start a YouTube channel which is going to grow into anything else? Then no, definitely not, because then it's how they win, isn't it? It's how they win. We as entrepreneurs, if you have that buzz for being an entrepreneur, if you've got an idea, if you've got something that you want to talk about and sell or make or do, just do it. It's that Shia LaBeouf meme, is it? Just do it. It really is the most rewarding thing that you can do, but be aware that it is a challenge. It is a big challenge right now. Whether you've got a side hustle on eBay or on Whatnot, I mean, Whatnot's not a great platform for a side hustle, let me tell you, but there are plenty of ways that one can carve out one's own area within this community. But can I see it being a little bit more challenging going forward? Yes. Are things like silver prices going to make things really very difficult for people going forwards? Yes. So pretty tough right now. But I just want to, if you're still watching, what are we into the 16th minute of this video? Just thank you, first of all, for watching, for being cool. But don't worry about me as a business. I've been here and seen that and done that. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just adjusting. You have to adjust as a business. You have to move with the climate. You have to move with the times. You have to move with what's working for you as a business. So lots of challenges, yes, but lots of rewarding things out there as well. So be inspired. Go and do it. Be inspired to be in business is my opinion. But be aware that things are pretty tough right now for any small business, and they're only going to get tougher as businesses find more challenges or the government instills more checks and compliance and tax returns and requirements for that. It's pretty, that's the worst thing about it, is the admin, because it takes you away from being creative. It takes you away from the things that you love and want to do. So there we go. Those are my thoughts on being in business right now in the UK. Let me know if it's the same for you, if you're a small business or if you're trying to get started, or if you're a bigger business, and how have you adjusted and rolled with all these different changes. There are lots of challenges out there, and it'd be great to hear what people have got to say about it. Otherwise, that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed the stamping in the background. It's been quite different video for me to have that stock footage and then just talk, which is kind of cool because let me tell you, talking and stamping ain't an easy thing to do at the same time. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you on the next video. Cool kids. You can say, thank God he didn't hit his thumb again. We'll see you all on the next one. As always, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.